Hi guys! So I'm going to walk you through an upper body circuit. So just focusing on the chest, the shoulders, the back, and the arms. There's 6 movements in total, and it should take, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. It really depends on how quickly you move through the movements. I wouldn't advise going too fast. You don't want to go too slowly unless you've actually got some heavy weight. Then you can move through this at a bit of a slower pace. But if you're just doing banded or like low weights, like a 2 kilo weight, then you can move through this kind of quickly. So there's 6 exercises and you'll be going through it 3 times. So first thing you're going to want to do is warm up. So just go for a walk for 5 to 10 minutes, just to move around, get the blood flowing, get the body warmed up. You want to spend enough time walking around, getting the muscles warmed up, getting the body primed to put it through a workout. So 5 to 10 minutes, you don't need to do more than a 10-minute walk. I only do 10 minutes of easy cardio when I'm doing my workouts. So any more than that, it just feels like you're wasting time. Cardio's boring. Anyway, to each their own. No judgment. So it's predominantly going to be a banded workout, but I will show you movements using weights as well. I have with me a 2 kilo dumbbell just as an example. And I've also got which was a vinegar bottle that I've just filled up with water, and this weighs like 2.1 kilos, so these are about the same weight. It's just an easy way to add weights with things that you'll find at home, things that you'll recycle or whatever, but you can actually get more use out of. Otherwise, I've got a band. These are pretty easy to get. You can order them online, or you could go to Kmart if you feel like braving Kmart during this time. To each their own. So I'll show you the movements with this, and then other ones where you can add weights, I'll give you an example, but the movement pattern really is the same. And yeah, let's have fun. So first move that we're going to do is a banded row. You can do this standing or seated, and I'll show you both. So it's a rowing motion. So the one thing that you want to keep in mind, which will be the same for most of these movements because we're dealing with the upper body, is you want to have your chest up and shoulders back. So chest up, shoulders back. So that way we're really focusing on this area. We're really going to get the muscles engaged, and also encourage when we're rowing for the back to get engaged when we've hit the top of the movement. What we also want to keep in mind is when we're at that point to squeeze the shoulder blades together, because we want those muscles in the back to activate. So keep that in mind, and I'll walk you through it now. So banded row. So feet back hip width apart. Hinging at the hips, slight bend in the knees, good amount of tension on the band, core engaged, chest up, shoulders back, row. Fun! So seated banded rows. So just like you're standing, you can have your legs stretched out, but I would have a slight bend in the knees just to help leverage. You can even just push your toes into the wall. Again, good tension on the band. So chest up, shoulders back, lean back a bit so you're still at a 45-degree angle, and then look up and row. And the movement pattern is the same with, say, bottles. I'll show you from the side. So feet about hips width apart, bending at the hips, bend in the knees. Let the arms drop, but the shoulders back. Core engaged, look forward. Another note about this movement is to keep your torso at about a 45-degree angle and kind of just look directly ahead of you. Don't try to avoid dropping your head down too much or craning your head up. It's just not a great position. You want to keep your spine long. And then it's the same with when you're doing it seated, chest up, row. So the next is the beloved push-ups, because everyone loves this. If you can do a full body push-up, go for it. I can't yet, working on it. So I'm just gonna show you the modified version, as they call it, which is on the knees. So again, we want to have our chest up, but one tip that I'll give you about the push-up that I discovered through working out as much as I do is that it's really a full body movement. Even though it's focused, so much of it is focused on the upper body, you need to have the whole body engaged in order to really do it correctly. So having your core engaged is really important, and squeezing your butt muscles, and then that in turn will get the legs activated. And so you want to keep basically your body, you want to keep your body basically like a stiff board, and then that makes it easier to leverage. Another thing that I'll point out is to have your arms at about a 45-degree angle from your body, because this is essentially a bench press, but we're doing it on the ground. So when you're doing a bench press, you want your shoulders back, your chest up, and then you want your arms at about 45 degrees. This helps to protect the shoulders, which is important. It's too easy to injure your shoulders in this movement. So 45 degrees, your hands can be, I usually have mine a bit out from my shoulders, whatever feels comfortable for you. Some people have broader shoulders than I do, and they can put their hands directly under their shoulders. That's more like a tricep push-up. And again, core engaged, butt tight. This just makes it easier instead of kind of feeling like your torso is flopping about, which you don't want, because then it's putting way too much stress on the upper body and you're not having the support of the rest of your torso. In so many movements in weightlifting, and regardless of the fact that most of this is basically body weight or just lightly weighted, we're replicating a whole lot of movements that are done in weightlifting. And unless you're doing isolation movements, which is like a bicep curl where you're really just targeting the bicep, a lot of movements are actually targeting a whole bunch of different muscle groups, so having them engaged is important. And the push-up, which is essentially, like I've said, a bench press, it's really important to have your core engaged, your butt engaged, because if you're on a bench doing it, even your legs are engaged while in this movement, so the whole body gets involved. So it's good to keep that in mind when doing the push-up, and you might actually find that you can do more of them than you thought you could or have been able to do previously. And so the beloved push-up. So I'm going to do it on my knees because I can only do it on my knees at this point. If you can do it full body, like I said before, cowabunga dude, have fun. I'm not. So getting into position, I have my hands about there. Just play with the placement that feels comfortable for you, but have the 45-degree angle of the arms. This is not a great angle to shoot from, but I'm shooting by myself, so. Again, shoulders back, chest up. I look slightly forward. Core is engaged, butt is engaged. If you can't go as low, it's fine. Just go as low as you can. The strength to go that low will build over time. It's just like anything. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. So have fun. So next is the overhead press. What I will say with this one, because I don't usually do this with a band, so it's kind of tricky. You're gonna have a lot of tension on that band. I prefer it with weights. It's just easier to get the arm in position. You want to think about shoulder back and down, and again chest up, and then you're just pushing like this. With the band, it can get a little tricky. I found you kind of having to maneuver the band around your elbow and stuff, but give it a go because that's going to add more resistance, which is going to have more of an effect. But just be careful with your shoulders. If you start to notice a sharp pain, ditch the band, get a weight, like a bottle even. I'd kind of hold it like this and then shoulder back, down, chest up, and then like this. The main thing is keeping the shoulder protected and strong. So again, with the overhead press, make sure that your core is engaged. Core engagement is a weird term. I used to think it meant just sucking your stomach in, but what it actually is, the way I feel like it is it's kind of like you're pushing your stomach in, but also pushing it out at the same time, and then creating a stable core. That's what the core is for. The core is to stabilize the upper and lower body. That's its role. A strong core is a strong torso, is a strong, stable unit that then your limbs can do their thing. So keep your core engaged and strong. Squeeze your butt muscles as well. You don't have to go nuts squeezing them, but just keep them tight because your butt is actually part of your core. Your core essentially is from your rib cage down to about, in yoga they teach it that it's down to your knees. So yeah, just keep your butt muscles engaged and your core and you'll be good. And because you'll be protecting your lower back as well, but also keeping this part of your body stable so you can get the movement in correctly. So next is overhead press. So you can have just one foot on the band or both. I'm going to use both. That way I've got a bit more range of motion for the bands. So it's good to have a slight bend in the knees, keep the core engaged, keep the butt muscles engaged as well. It just helps if the rest of the body is a solid foundation. So then chest up, shoulders down and back. And then, like I said, it can get a little tricky. You can look ahead of you or look slightly up. And again, I'll show you from the side. And then with the bottles, cues are exactly the same. Foot placement really is just what makes you feel like you've got a solid foundation. It's like bending the knees, core engaged, chest up, shoulders back, and then up. So next is banded bicep curl, and I feel like everyone knows how to do a bicep curl, right? But again, it's chest up, shoulders back, keep the arms locked to the sides, and then just curl up. And you're good to go. As for how you hold your hands, you can have them like this or like this. This is a hammer curl. If you want to do hammer curls, that's fine. If you want to have palms facing up, fine. You can even do palms facing down, and that'll really work like the upper muscles in the arms as well. So you might find that you get a bit tighter quicker doing the palms facing down. That's simply because those muscles in the top of the arm are smaller and they don't tend to get worked so much. But it's a good one to do. If you feel like mixing them up, just play around with your hand position and that'll work the different muscles in your arms. Yeah, variety. Variety is a good thing. Variety is key. So banded bicep curl, feet hip width apart, shoulders back, chest up, core engaged, and again, play with the placement of the hands. From the side. Nice. Then next is tricep dips. So one thing you want to keep in mind with this as well is to keep, unless you've got a particularly mobile shoulder, but even then I wouldn't recommend that too much, because just because you can make your arm go further in degree, that's not always a good thing. They call it hypermobility. Just because you're hypermobile doesn't mean that you should encourage the joint to be hypermobile. After a certain angle, it's harder for the muscles to get engaged, and the whole point of these movements, or any exercise really, is to get the muscles engaged. We're not working the joints. The joints are, the joints are what they're called. They join parts of the body together and they allow movement, but there's no strength there. The strength is in the muscles. So we want to keep the muscles engaged. We don't want to start running into the joints, because that's just going to cause injury, and then the more you do that, you're just going to degenerate the joints, and nobody wants that. You don't want to have knee surgery. I don't want to have knee surgery. Fuck that shit. No thank you. I want to be able to keep moving. I want my body to be as healthy for as long as it can be. So, tricep dips. So we want to get the arm to about 45 degrees. And again, you want to have the chest up, shoulders back, and then I wouldn't go any higher than this. My shoulders aren't particularly hypermobile at all, so after I've dropped a certain amount, it starts to feel not great in my shoulders, and then I know to stop there. Don't want to keep pushing the joints. It just doesn't lead anywhere good. So I just keep it to a 45-degree angle, and then just push into the heel of your hand. And again, keep your core engaged and the lower body strong. This just makes it smoother to work through, and you don't want to put so much weight on these muscles. So the tricep dips work primarily like the tricep, it's in the name, but also there's a bit of pecs. And the pecs are very small muscles, so you don't want to be dumping a lot of weight, particularly the rest of your body weight, into the movement. So keep your core engaged, butt engaged, legs strong, but we're not pushing from the legs, we're pushing from the hands. The legs are just there to help you keep balance. That's it. Get those triceps involved. So tricep dips, chest up, shoulders back. We want to keep the back close to the edge of the chair as we're going down. Core engaged. And then finally, we'll be doing the lat raises. So again, this isn't a movement that I typically do with a band. I had to kind of really focus on keeping my shoulders in the right area. So if you find it too tricky, I would recommend just getting like the water bottle. With these, I would, whatever feels comfortable. But, so the lat raises are focusing on the delts. The traps will get a little involved, but we don't want too much trap involvement because we want to get the shoulders involved. So one cue that's really helped me is not to think about leading with the shoulders, but lead with the elbows. So when you're thinking about doing the movement, I leave a little bend in my elbows and think about leading with your elbows. And also just having, it can be different for everyone, but I keep my hand at a slight angle. It just helps me to remember to, one, lead with my elbows, but I find it helps target the delts more, which is what you want in this movement. So chest up, shoulders back, slight bend in the elbows, and then lead with the elbows. And also don't go too high. I see some guys at the gym and they're like, whoo, whoo. And I just think, oh man, you're gonna fuck your shoulders doing that. No too fucking shoulders. No. Chest up, shoulders back down. You only want to go to shoulder height. Some people don't even go that high. They just go to just lower than shoulder height, because if you can feel it working that muscle, then it's doing what it needs to do. And if you're protecting your shoulders at the same time, then you're doing it right. So yeah, we're not flying. We're just using the arm as a lever and leading with the elbows. If you do find that movement too uncomfortable with the bands, because I kind of did, the resistance is quite a lot. Don't use them, or just go as far as feels comfortable. There's no need to push it to all the way up. If it starts to hurt at about there, then just do that. If there's enough tension on the band, which for me when I was doing it, there was plenty, so it's still going to do what it needs to do. Just keep focus on your form, just like with anything else. And again, core engagement in this is important too. Lat raises. With these, I would just step one foot into the band, just so you have a bit more of band to actually use. So just keep that foot forward a bit, kind of stand on it. You can just lever with the other leg. So again, chest up, shoulders back, core in. And again, remember we're leading with the elbows, so slight bend in the elbows and then up and down. And you don't need to go any higher than this while doing this. So I'll show you from the side. Come in a bit closer. Chest up, shoulders back, slight bend in the elbows, core in, and hands slightly angled down. So that's the circuit, and you'll go through it 3 times. Yes, 3 times. It's a low weight circuit. You can do it repeatedly. So after you've gone through the 6 exercises, have about 1 to 2 minutes rest before going through it again. Take a little water break, run to the toilet. In between each sets, give about 30 seconds if you feel like you really need it, but I would just say just jump straight into the next one. Unless you feel like, particularly after the push-ups, you feel like you need to have a moment to kind of recover because they're not easy. That's fine, but just make sure you're not like coming back 5 minutes later. You want to keep the body warm, you want to keep the muscles warm. That's important. We don't want to injure ourselves. We want to be able to continue doing this. And then after that, just some basic cool down, so just stretches. So the muscles we want to be thinking about stretching is the chest, so the pecs. So I tend to do like a wall stretch. I'll get my arm and I'll have it up a bit, so that way it's targeting both, because you got 2 pec muscles, that way they both get stretched. I do a yoga stretch, the top half of what's called cow face pose. So one arm underneath the other, and if you can, not everyone can, hook the hands like this, otherwise that works if you can hook fingers and thumbs. And then with this, you want to keep shoulders down and then just raise your arms up a little. That's a really good stretch for across the upper back, the shoulder blades. I always do it. It feels good. And another stretch that I would recommend, because we have also been working the back muscles, is to do a twist. So you can do a seated twist, or just lie on the ground and then just turn the lower body to the side. It's important to stretch out the back muscles as well. Hold these stretches for about 20 to 30 seconds and you should be good. And then you also want to stretch out your triceps. For me, I find just putting my hands up against the wall. So just hands up against the wall, and then you want to stretch like that. And that gets the triceps and some of the lat involved too, and it's a really nice stretch. And yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoy it. Have fun. Let me know how you go. And if you really like this and you'd like another upper body circuit where there's some different movements involved, just let me know. I'm more than happy to do this for you guys. I find this to be a lot of fun. If I can inspire people to work out and they find their own joy in doing this, then that's great. I'm a happy person if I can do that. And okay, have fun guys. Bye.